There we go. Right, we can start. Right, so my name's Sue, as we've already said, and I'm from the Severn Trent Community Fund. I've been at Severn Trent for just over 5 years with the delivery of the fund. And we started the fund back in January 2020 as a commitment for the 5 years of that business period, or what we call our business AMP. And we are now approved for the next 5 years. So the fund is now going from 2025 to 2030. As you can see from this map, we cover quite a large geographical patch, and I'm responsible for sort of from the middle over to the Leicestershire border. So it's Derbyshire, Nottinghamshire, Leicestershire, Coventry, and Warwickshire. So quite a big patch, and we've got roughly well, we have 10,000 staff roughly, and obviously quite a few million customers. So there's a lot of work to do across our patch. Um, this presentation will go cover two different types of funding that we do. So starting off, we'll start about our new project funding. Anybody that's looked at the process for us before will see that we've changed it slightly. We now only have two funding pots, funding size pots, one for 2,000 to 20,000, which one for 20,000 to 100,000. And these are the dates that we have internal cut-off points for you to apply. And so for the March panel, that cut-off point was 31st of January. So we're just ploughing through all the applications that we've got for that and doing the due diligence on them. So the portal's open all year round, and I'll go into a bit more detail about the application process in a short while. So the main overarching theme of the fund is around the wellbeing of our communities, and we've broken that down into people, place, and environment. So there are projects that will support healthier lifestyles, skills development. It can be about mental health and wellbeing. So there's projects that create better places for communities. So it can be community centres, village halls. The photograph in this image is a new build pavilion that was done in Derbyshire, but we funded the cream bit of the building, which is the community room, which has been very successful and oversubscribed, and they wish they'd built it twice the size. And then we've got the environment aspects, which are projects that will look after our natural environment, rivers and water. We do have projects that do have a natural connection to water, but it is not essential. So please don't be concerned if your project doesn't have a link to water. Like I say, the environmental ones and the place ones tend to sort of have a natural link to water, but the people ones potentially may not, and it doesn't affect how your application is scored or reviewed if you don't have a link to water. We will consider both capital and revenue projects, and to have a look at the sort of things that we've funded so far. If you follow the links when you get this presentation, we've got our annual reviews and maps that show you the sort of things that we funded so far, but they are quite diverse. With it being these three aims, it covers quite a range of activities. Who can apply? So it's anybody that's not for profit. So as long as you've got a governing document with a bank account in the legal name of the organisation and you have two dual signatories. So it can be anything that's not for profit. So it can be charity, constituted group, schools, local authorities, parish councils, CICs. The only stipulation is that it needs to be based in within the Severn Trent region and for the benefit of Severn Trent customers. Obviously, like I've just shown you, we do cover quite a large patch, but I can guarantee if you're Warwickshire, you're with us, so that's okay. But if you weren't sure, then there are links on here that aren't showing up particularly well. So there's a couple of links here that show you our supply area, and also it's a postcode checker because some of our region is obviously on the cusp of another water company. We can only accept one application from an organisation in a year's period. So if you applied to us and were not successful, you'd have to wait another year to reapply. So how much can you apply for? So like I briefly said, there's 2 to 20,000 and there's 20,000 to 100,000. For 20,000 and under, you just need to have a governing document and and a bank account, so a constituted group. Anything over 20,000, you must be a registered body. So that's either a charity, a company, limited by guarantee, CIC, or a statutory body, or an exempt charity like a church or whatever. All projects can be up to 24 months to complete. We don't ask for match funding anymore. It is encouraged, but it's not essential. It just, obviously, if people can match a little bit of funding, it just helps us spread the pot a little bit further. And if you are doing capital projects, then we need you to have a lease in place. So depending on the amount of money you're applying for, depends on what lease requirement is left. So as it shows here, anything 2 to 20,000, we'd need at least 2 years, 20 to 50,000 at least 5 years, and 50 to 100,000 at least 10 years. And we need to be the majority funder. So that is 50% or more of your total project costs. If you're, for example, doing a larger project like the pavilion that was on one of the slides previously, their overall project was a lot more than what they were asking from us, but they applied to us just for the community room. So we were the majority funder on that aspect of the build. Obviously, they had to have all the other funding in place to make sure that the building went up, but we funded that particular aspect of it. So if you're not sure, just have a chat with me. There tends to be a little bit of ways we can look at it. Things that we can't fund. So we can't fund anything that's for individuals or anything that's too closely linked to our core services. So no new like water supplies or water connections, sewage supplies, boreholes, that sort of thing, because it's potentially money coming back to Severn Trent that we don't want that to happen. We can't fund existing projects. It must be a brand new delivery. And we can fund religious and political organisations as long as the project does not have a political or religious purpose. We can't fund anything that's short term, so anything that's like festivals, one-off events wouldn't be eligible for us. Anything retrospective, anything that's excessive use of mains water, for example. No development or research or feasibility studies activities or the purchase of land or property. It just gets very confusing with that. And we can't fund playgrounds or sports services. So that's football pitches, netball pitches, whatever you play sport on, it's not eligible. And sports equipment and kit will only be eligible if it's part of a wider project. We don't do sponsorship of football shots, for example. But on our website, we do have a list of what costs aren't eligible, and it's quite clear and to see what we can and can't fund. So the process. So our fund is overseen by our independent community fund customer panel. They are volunteers that come from across the region, and they make the final decision on where the funding goes. So it doesn't sit with our board; it sits with our customer panel. We've just recruited a new panel for the new business AMP, and they are all people that have relevant experience of the voluntary and community sector. So they could be for example, we've got somebody that runs a community centre, we've got somebody that works for a charity or a support organisation like Carver. So we have lots of different people that sit on the panel. We tried to get somebody from each of our regions, and they make the final decision on where the funding goes. The process is that you would apply through the website. That comes into us for internal review, where we take a look and make sure that we do all the due diligence, that you're eligible, and then all the fund applications that fit that then go to the customer panel for review. And this motley crew that you can see on this photo is our existing panel, who are just looking at their last lot of applications. So they will be leaving us, and we will have our new panel starting with us in March. So apologies if I'm teaching you to suck eggs, as they say, and you've done all this before, but this is just a little bit of guidance around before starting an application. We've really worked hard to make our new web page really accessible and really clear. We've stripped back all the information that we don't think was needed and made it nice and clean to look at and read. And that guidance is just there to help you. I always think of it, look at it as if you were applying for a job. If you want the job, you've got to fit the job spec, and that's what that guidance is there for. So it's around checking your eligibility, making sure that your project actually fits our aims, and that you can use the grant to pay for your proposed costs. So make sure you don't have any ineligible costs in your budget. Make sure you've got the documentation you need. So at the point of application, all we ask you for is your governing document and your latest accounts. We don't ask for anything else, except planning permission. So if you're doing something that's got a capital build aspect to it and it needs planning permission, that needs to be secured by the time at the point of application. It can't be in progress. Purely because we've had it happen before, and then 6 months later we're still waiting for planning permission. So yeah, it needs to be secured. If you are attaching any match funding to your application, then that needs to be secured as well. And just make sure your timescales fit with ours. So, for example, we're looking at the March applications that have come into us. They will go to panel for a decision in late March, and the project will need to start within 6 months of being awarded. So just when you look at the website and you see when the cut-off points are, that's the time frame that you need to keep in mind. And if you're not sure, just ask me. I'm always around. Might not always be able to answer my phone, but I'm always around and can get back to you. Right, so that's a quick run through of the criteria. Now we're just going to look at what the application process itself looks like. So it's all done through our portal, which is an online process, and this link will take you to the correct portal. If you have applied to us in the past, do not use the link that you have previously, because that was for the old 5 years. This is for the new 5 years. So if you go on there, it will tell you that this portal is no longer live. So you need to make sure that you use this link. And you just need to sort of click on, have a look through the guidance, have a quick look on what's there, and then click on the apply for funding button. And that will take you through to the portal, which looks like this. So if you get the old portal, the image that you can see here, which is children planting trees, there's an image of hands. So if you're on the one that's got hands, you're on the wrong one. You need this one with the children planting trees. You click on the sign up button, because obviously this is a new portal, so chances are you won't have already signed up. And then you just need to create your profile. You only need to do this once. So you just go in, email, password, and then this bit here is all about our GDPR. So you just need to tick that you agree to that. And obviously it's very tight GDPR, being a FTSE 100 company. We have a lot of guidelines that we have to adhere to. And once you've done that, it will allow you to create your final profile. So you just need to put in all your contact details. And like I say, you only need to do this once, and then click profile to create it. And the final thing you need to do is once you've created that profile, you can then start your application and press on the Get Started button. This opens up the screen where you can then go to the next process, and the final stage is this last eligibility check. So you just need to tick all of these boxes that are here by the pink arrow, and they are basically what I've just said about, that you are based within the Severn Trent region, you're not for profit, you're that you're eligible to apply. And once you've ticked all of those buttons, it will open up the application form. Once you've done that, the next bit of the process is selecting the amount of money that you're going to apply for. So obviously we're not going to ask the same level of questions for 2 to 20,000 that we're going to ask for up to 100,000. So once you've ticked this, it will open up the relevant questions for you. And then the final bit is to select which of the aims that your project is most suited to. So that's people, place, and environment. So you just tick what's relevant for you. If your project is only about people, then you just tick people. Place, you only tick that project if you're actually physically creating or improving a space. If you're not doing that, if those costs aren't in your budget, then you don't tick place. We've got quite a lot of people tick it because they think it's going to help improve their chances of getting funding. But if your budget and your plans aren't to improve a space, then it's not going to. So once you've chosen which aims are most the ones that are applicable to your funding, then that will open up those questions and you're ready to go. So just a quick go through of what to expect. So obviously, like most funders, we need to know who you are, and we need to know what your project aims to achieve and how it fits with our themes and aims. We also look at how you will sustain your project going forward. So it's not about potentially financial sustainability, but also just about planning what, past the point of funding, and also how you will monitor the outcomes that you are saying you will do. If you're applying for a larger chunk of money, we will ask for key milestones of your project. So that's what point delivery you will do. So, once the project starts, if you're doing a build, when what aspects of the build, if you're employing a new role, when will you recruit, when do you expect to have them in place? It's those sort of things. And we'll also ask for any experience that you have that's relevant to what you're doing. Project costs, we ask for your budget. We have a downloadable spreadsheet. Please use it. We get a lot of groups that don't, and then they don't give us the information that we need. And if you've got any imagery, if it's a capital build and you've got plans, if you're improving a space and you can take photographs or a little video of what it looks like now, it just gives the panel a bit of visualization to help them see what your plans are. And obviously, we want your governing documents and your annual accounts. And if you are doing anything physical, capital wise, then we need to see your lease or deeds and a project consent form, which again is all downloadable from our website. But when the panel are reviewing the application, they look at these four main things. So community need. You need to show the panel why you're doing what you're doing. So it's about consultations, statistics, social research. You might have done a pilot. It's just so that when the panel look at the application, they can say, do you know what? They've done their homework. If we fund this, it's a good use of the money, because if it will get used, it will get accessed. Planning. So like I say, good budget. Have you got good methods in place to measure your outcomes against what you've said? Sustainability, have you thought about it? So especially with salaries and things like that, it's about what will happen past the point of funding. What are your plans to sustain this going forward? And also value for money. Look at your beneficiary numbers, what the impact's going to be. I'll give an example. I was speaking to a gentleman the other day, and he was wanting to renovate a village hall where the population was quite small. So he needs to keep his budget relative to that. So it's about looking at how many people will benefit from the money as well. So again, if you're not sure, just ask. So project budget, like I said, there's a list of things that you can download. Once you're in your application and you've got this bit, anything that's blue is a downloadable form. So you've got your project consent form, you've got your breakdown of project costs, which is an Excel spreadsheet, which you can download, fill in, and then upload. There's a point in the application where you can load it back up. There is a downloadable copy of all the questions that are in the application form. Now, it is all of the questions. So if your project is only about people, then you will also have the place and environment questions in there. So don't panic and think there's that many questions for everybody. It is just relevant to what you are doing. And there's also the link to who's your water supplier, just in case you've got to check where your project is based. This is the spreadsheet that we provide. It gives you examples of the sort of information that we need. You just delete those examples and put your own information in. So if you're doing a salary, it's good to show us how many hours a week they're going to work and what the hourly rate is going to be, because we do expect the hourly rate to be paid at the living wage and above. And just give us a breakdown. We don't need to know every nut, screw and nail or paintbrush, but it's just nice to have a good idea. So again, the panel can say, actually, we can really see where the money is going to go with this. I was speaking to somebody yesterday who was doing a renovation of an old library, and their line was internal works, £50,000, and that was it. And that's not good enough. If you want £50,000, you need to tell us what it's for. So a breakdown of, is it for a kitchen? Is it for toilets? Is it for flooring, lighting? Just a breakdown of what those costs would be. And if you've got quotes, then you can always attach them. So strong applications tend to be the ones that have used the guidance, and have therefore gone along the lines of linking to the wellbeing themes, have got that evidence of need, that they know what's going on in their community, and that the community have been involved with the planning through consultation or questions. Could be on Facebook, anything. So it doesn't have to be something fancy. It just needs to show that you've spoken to your local community and that they want what you're delivering. Um, Good budget breakdown, like I say, wide-reaching community benefit, and try and keep it concise and to the point. Bullet points can help with this, and show the passion. You know, show what the differences make. You're the guys that know what's needed. Don't be afraid to tell us, because that is quite important to show, that you really understand what your community needs are. And you can guarantee that weak applications have done none of that. And sometimes you can read paragraphs of work writing and not understand what the project is till you look at the budget and you think, oh, okay, that's what it is. So yeah, if you're not sure, just get somebody that doesn't maybe know about your project to read it for you, and they can take a look. Right, we have a few frequently asked questions, and I've answered a couple of them already. But yeah, planning permission for building projects, it does need to be in place before applying. We quite often get asked if two organisations can join together, and be a combined application. Of course, that's absolutely fine, but somebody would need to take the lead and be the main one responsible for making the application. Like I said, we can't fund anything that's short-lived. So one-day events or sort of 6 or 7 sessions is not sustainable. So that's not for us. And you do have to complete monitoring. Monitoring is based again on the level of funding. So again, if you're having 100,000, you would have a little bit more monitoring to do than if you've had 10,000. And like I said, about the big, larger, expensive projects, if you can split
English.
your,
Yeah, you
can we
don't
have
have
people
to.
on mute, please? Thank you. If you have got a large project, and there is a standalone phase that you can apply to us for, that can get up and running without further funding from the rest of it, then, for example, a final decoration of a community space and that, then you could apply to us just for that aspect of it. And I'm always here to run ideas by. So if you're not sure, you can just check in with me. Right, so what happens once the it's gone to panel? So if you're successful, obviously we let you know, and then you would need to log back into your portal to accept the grant. So you will have a grant offer letter and terms and conditions of grant. Please read these. They do explain what is needed from us or expected from us as a funder. You need to accept the grant by signing the agreement, and that is just ticking a box, is an online thing. And then you need to provide us with your bank details, like I say, with 2 unrelated signatories, and the bank statement needs to be dated within the last 3 months. All grants are paid by backs, and depending on how much you've applied for will depend on how we pay them. So anything up to 20,000, you get 100% upfront. We do say here unless agreed otherwise by the panel, but in the last 5 years they've always given 100%. So it's not, I can't see them doing it any differently, but they might. And then 20,000 to 100,000 is on a case by case basis, but we will always retain 10% final payment for completing of the end of project monitoring. So when you're doing a budget for that price bracket, make sure that you keep in mind that 10% of it will come once the project's finished. Bank statement requirements. This is what we're looking for. This is what every funder will be looking for. So we need to see that it's in the last 3 months. It needs to include the bank name. It needs to have your organisation's legal name and the address and the sort code and account number. This is just fraud protection. It's what we have to see. A lot of the online banking now, it's easy to get a statement that you just download as a PDF, but this is what you're looking for on your bank statement. If your project's unsuccessful, obviously we will let you know, and we ask the panel to give us as much feedback as to why it was unsuccessful, and we will also try and signpost you to other suitable funding. Sometimes it really is that we've just oversubscribed and somebody was just a little bit stronger, but we will always try and feedback as much as we can. If you're unsuccessful, you can reapply to the community fund for a different project, but it has to be after 12 months. And if you are applying for a different project, just have a chat with us to make sure it's eligible, because it takes a long time to write these applications, and we want to make sure it's worthwhile for you. So if you're not sure, just give us a call and we can chat through what your plans are. Right, I mentioned at the beginning we also have two sorts of funding. So we have our new project funding, but we also have core funding. New project funding, I'll explain this now, does not have an income ceiling. So it doesn't matter what level of income your organisation has, you can apply for new project funding. With core funding, we do have an income ceiling. We've done core funding a bit ad hoc over the last few years, and we've seen that it's such a needed thing. So we've decided to make it part of our plan as a permanent thing for the next 5 years. It's for groups that deliver vital service for local residents who are need and you are in need of urgent support to continue delivering. So it can be wider community benefit for those most vulnerable. And this is for restricted grants of five to £20,000, which need to be spent within a year. Your organisation must have been operating since 2022 and have a gross annual income of £250,000 or less averaged over the last 3 years. We've capped it at this because we do have a limited pot, and we have evidence of the levels of applications that we get for this funding. So we have to have a cut-off point somewhere. You can't have more than 12 months standard operating costs in your unrestricted reserves. And, it's just about that you need to be, this is to support you to carry on going. You can have debt, but it cannot be unmanageable or significant. We will have two windows for this funding this year. One will be in May and one will be in November. Each of those will be open for a month. Again, we limit it because we do get inundated, and we have to be able to manage the work and set expectations as well. The link to that will be this link on this page. So it's not the previous one because it's a different portal, because this is the core funding. And if you are eligible and you are interested in applying to this, if you drop us an email, we will add you to the mailing list. So when it goes live in May, you will get notification. Right, so I will stop that there and we will take